The Star Wars show Andor in Disney Plus, written by Dan and Tony Gilroy, has many complex characters whose stories go far beyond the screen. With the detailed writing, the audience can't help but be drawn in by the realism of the characters. Andor illustrates the making of a rebellion and the sacrifices and betrayals that come with it.
So what do I sacrifice? Everything!
While the leader of the original rebellion, Luthen Rael, starts building an army, we see Cassian struggle with his morality as the show progresses. As the rebellion is beginning to develop, the Imperial Security Bureau, the ISB, is hot on Luthen's heels. Dedra Meero, a supervisor in the ISB, is set on tracking down any rebellion movements, focusing on her ultimate target, Axis. Andor truly allows the audience to see the cruelty and oppression of the Empire. Portraying the Empire in this way helps viewers understand why the rebellion has a genuine cause to fear them. Not only do we see the Empire as an oppressive force, but we see officers' imperfections. We see how the characters are oppressed by the regime they work for. As for Dedra, there are many complexities to her character, which makes her such an interesting and unique presence. Not only is Dedra working for an oppressive regime, but she is a female in power. Dedra's character is representative of a woman in a male-dominated field, one in particular that is filled with misogynistic ideologies. Right from the moment she is introduced, we see this behavior in the male officers she works with. The complications with her male colleague, Supervisor Blevin, provide insight in her relationships with other officers. Dedra, who is focused on finding the rebels who were stealing Imperial equipment, requests files from Blevin's sector on Ferrix. He is quick to refuse.
You've been here, just over a year? You might want to steady the ladder before you start climbing.
I'm not looking for career advice.
You fall here, you fall alone.
Since Blevin denied Dedra access to the files, which she technically should have been allowed to receive, she takes it to Major Partagaz. Blevin states that Dedra is overreaching to increase the size of her portfolio. Since Dedra lacks evidence, Partagaz gives Blevin the high ground for now. Throughout the show, Partagaz has always been there for Dedra as a guiding figure, warning her and advising her in her career. After Blevin leaves the room, his advice foreshadows Dedra's downfall.
You have 2 sectors to supervise. Blevin is handling 6. He does, I will admit, hew to the traditional viewpoint of this office and its staffing. He is, I'm sure, a challenge to work with.
Here, Partagaz acknowledges Blevin's standpoint and how he takes on the traditional viewpoint, meaning misogyny.
There's a high bar for your performance, Lieutenant. Unfair, perhaps, but senseless to ignore and potentially the foundation of a uniquely superior career. You're supposed to be more competent and tucked away. That's why you're here. That's why we're bringing in officers like you. Let's remind everyone of that and not get lost in the dust.
Partagaz is aware of Dedra's unique standing, being a woman in a male-dominated field, so he reminds her that, although capable, she can't let competition get in the way of proving her worth to the Empire. It is rare when Dedra shows any weakness, but when depicted, it's often subtle. After Partagaz leaves her with his words, she takes a heavy sigh, a simple indicator of the words affecting her more than she lets on. As seen throughout the show, the Empire prefers their officers to be mediocre. Standing out and being overly ambitious brings attention, which can be more detrimental than furthering a career. Blevin later proceeds to bring the situation to the meeting table, attempting to publicly humiliate Dedra. He claims her overreach threatens Imperial security. Dedra states her reasoning, and she had collected more data as Partagaz suggested. She cleverly used the Imperial Emergency Act in the wake of Aldhani to build her case.
Major Partagaz created those sectors.
Do you really think the rebels care about the lines we draw on maps?
Dedra often gets ahead of herself, accidentally speaking to superior officers in a forceful tone. Her ambition leads her to bending rules, which brings attention to her, the opposite of what Partagaz warned her to do. Partagaz reassigns the Morlana sector to Dedra, but after doing so, speaks to her outside the room.
Well played.
Thank you, sir.
Watch your back.
Partagaz once again acknowledges Dedra's unfair situation within the ISB, advising her yet again. The Empire is strict, controlling, and competitive, which makes it difficult to have genuine connections with co-workers. Dedra's assistant, Agent Hurt, is an example of this. Many times the men in lower power attempt to overtake Dedra's position. Hurt and Dedra had a close work relationship throughout the first season. They helped each other with the Axis case, staying late hours and bouncing ideas off of each other. As the season progresses, we can see Hurt beginning to overstep. In other meetings, we see that the agents sit behind their supervisors, never speaking up. When discussing their search for Cassian, Hurt speaks, possibly out of turn, to report his findings. Dedra seems off-put by his sudden interjection. This is only the beginning of their severing professional relationship.
Get Dr. Gorst. Send him out there immediately.
I already did. He's on his way.
Dedra clearly reacts to his overstepping in surprise. She observes him with a cautious gaze. Hirt never seemed to fully respect Dedra's position, and he never used her title to address her. Perhaps this is normal, but it could be due to his lack of seeing her as a superior officer. In Season 2, Hirt is promoted to supervisor, taking over Blevins' position. This can be representative of his change of behavior towards Dedra. 1. He gained more power, and 2. He literally took over Blevins' position, and he now carries over his same beliefs. After Ferrix, Hirt takes over Dedra's Axis case.
It's my desk now, Dedra.
You don't call me in? You don't think I could be helpful?
I won't hesitate if I need it.
The only time Hirt actively seeks out Dedra's advice is when he needs her as he tries to track down Clea. It was life or death for him, and he needed her help to succeed.
It's all on you now. Young's best friend.
We were never friends.
I know the feeling.
Hirt is constantly trying to fit in as a supervisor amongst his colleagues. This could likely be another reason that contributes to his distancing from Dedra. Many supervisors don't like Dedra and her ambition. Hirt and Dedra are parallels of each other. Hirt tries to fit in and not stand out, but is set on removing any competition from his way. Dedra, on the other hand, overreaches and is overly ambitious. She wants justice and will go to extreme ends to do so. This shot, with the two of them walking side by side, visually conveys the parallel between them. It foreshadows there are two different downfalls that begin from this disagreement. Hirt arrests Dedra, and he has to finish her work. He dies in the field, and she is taken to prison. The Empire discards their officers, even if they are doing their job. Hirt was ambitious, but mediocre, and Dedra was too good at her job. Hirt was not the only one who overstepped Dedra's authority. Captain Kaido, a crisis specialist on Gorman, seems to have been placed there to make sure Dedra follows through with her duties. As I will be mentioning later, Dedra seems to have hesitation when it comes to creating the massacre on Gorman.
Everything as you want it?
What I want's a comfortable ride home. But let's not confuse the chain of command. I'm the trigger supervisor, you're the finger.
It seems as though the Empire placed Kaido in Palmo, distrusting Dedra to follow through with her commands. This outlook can also be associated with gender. And in the end, she did hesitate. Throughout this arc, she seemed hesitant about following through. When Kaido asks her for orders, her eyes are unfocused as she hesitates.
Orders, please. Supervisor Meero.
Proceed.
Dedra doesn't reply at first, taking a deep breath when she finally does. And when she does speak, her voice trembles. This scene alone uncovers a side of Dedra that is suppressed. She was hesitant, caught between moral boundaries and her duties. Cyril Karn, an Imperial loyalist who is often in over his head, also shows this common theme. As Cyril is given more promotions, he starts to be more demanding around Dedra. This, of course, leads into their falling out in Episode 8 of Season 2. Tying back into Gorman and Dedra's hesitation, there are many times where the stereotypical men versus women trope is seen. At this level, it is often seen that women have more empathy than men, and are also more likely to think before acting. While this could simply be because of societal expectations that influence behaviors between genders, it is important to consider. Since Dedra is often treated differently due to her gender, this is relevant here. Dedra often thinks more long-term than the men she works with. She is also more clever with pattern recognition. Dedra is always adamant on keeping prisoners alive, while her male colleagues are quicker to kill on the spot. She even acknowledges this during her interrogation with Bix.
You pull in the net, and the easy thing, the quick thing, is to assume that everything you've dragged to shore is a fish. I have colleagues who believe that's the prudent mindset in defense of the Empire, but I take a more nuanced view. I try.
The colleagues she mentions are men. From what has been shown of ISB meetings, there were only two female supervisors, Dedra and Supervisor Grandy. This is also evident from the amount of people who were surprised to see a female supervisor.
What happened to Lieutenant Blevin?
I lost the questions.
An ISB supervisor came in tonight. A woman.
There's an ISB supervisor in town.
A woman?
You know her.
Not yet.
In all of these situations, the characters are surprised to see a female supervisor, enough so to acknowledge she is a woman. Since it is also unlikely for there to be a female supervisor, Luthen immediately knows who Vel is speaking of. These patriarchal norms aren't only seen in the ISB, but also in the everyday lives of citizens. On Minu Rao in Season 2, we meet Lieutenant Kroll, the creepy misogynistic officer who attempts to rape Bix. Bila's mother, Aneth, a citizen on Minu Rao, seems immediately suspicious of Kroll's intentions, noticing his off-putting gaze and telling Bila to go inside.
Get inside.
I won't tell you again.
Aneth seems to be protecting Bila from Kroll, whom she had sensed had malintentions. And of course, Kroll's intentions are shown when he is with Bix. Kroll takes Bix's empathy as interest. He relies on his power within the Empire, causing him to believe that he has the right to treat Bix as he does. Even in punishment, we see genders being treated differently. When an officer wants information from Bix, he uses a childlike way of speaking. Even as Dedra interrogates her, she is less cruel than she was with Salman Pack. After using Dr. Gorst's method, Dedra allowed an officer to hang Pack, while Bix was treated almost kindly when she was mentally weakened. Dedra, being a woman, likely feared violations worse than death when she was attacked on Ferrix. This is seen when Cyril saves her, bringing her into a sealed room. She is quick to attack him in an attempt to defend herself. This gendered fear is present, even in the Star Wars universe. Like mentioned earlier, standing out within the Empire is often more dangerous than anything else. Dedra's ambition, combined with the fact that she already stood out because of her gender, ultimately contributed to her downfall. As Luthen states,
Oppression breeds rebellion.
since the Empire is an oppressive regime, Dedra had to bend the rules to perform to her standards. To find access, she had to pull files she didn't have access to. She was always overstepping, according to her colleagues.
Yes, I'm a scavenger, but I've had to be.
She felt obligated to scavenge for any information, and ultimately, she did find the leader of the rebellion. Although she was too late, had the Empire been more supportive of her case, there is a possibility that the rebellion would have been caught years before. As we've seen before, being a woman in this field makes it harder to obtain the information she needs.
They're inexperienced, but very eager.
How often those attributes align?
The Empire has full control over what cases and projects their officers work on. When the Axis case was taken away from Dedra and given to Hirt, she wanted to refuse the Gorman project, given to her by Director Krennic.
I don't want the Gorman project.
Humbling, isn't it? Both of us reminded of our place in the chain of command.
Partagaz advises her once again.
Next time, catch them first, then make them famous.
Despite his advice, Dedra's ambitions are still getting in the way of her other obligations as a supervisor. Dedra goes behind Hirt's back to confront Axis, waiting for his day off. She wasn't in charge of the case, but her natural strive to be great at her job caused her to overstep again. This is the final time before the Empire steps in.
Simple. Weapons are tools. Those that use them are, by extension, functional assets that we must use to our best advantage. The Empire has no moral boundaries. Why should we not take hold of every chance we can?
In short, the Empire sees its officers this way. People are tools, tools are used, and broken tools are replaced. Even Imperial officers feel this oppression. As previously mentioned, this is seen in the way Dedra tends to get ahead of herself when she speaks to superior officers.
Systems either change or die. Sir.
It's a large investment.
It's a fraction of the price of lost technology.
Dedra continuously causes herself to stand out amongst her colleagues. Her ambition clouds the way she speaks to her superiors. When Dedra is arrested, the Imperial ideology of treating officers as tools becomes even more apparent. She is stripped of her power, her insignia and code certs literally taken from her. She was discarded by the Empire. The Empire is built on obsession and control, and that outlook is passed on to their officers. Dedra was raised around this control. She was raised in an Imperial kinderblock surrounded by the Imperial ideology. Because of this, it led to the suppression of her emotion, individuality, and vulnerability in order to survive within the system. All she's ever known is control, precision, and power. She never learned empathy, emotions, or care.
We had everything we needed.
Except a mother's love.
We didn't know what we were missing.
Dedra was raised without a proper guardian figure in her life. She had no mother, which can tie into the reason for her masculine traits. Without her parents, who she claims are criminals, she never learned how to love. Since Dedra was taught control and the suppression of emotion, it is rare when there is any weakness in her composure. In this scene, Dedra is seen taking a stimulant. These likely suppress her emotions and allow her to stay awake and focused for longer periods of time. She is never observed taking these again, and perhaps that contributes to more imperfections being shown while she is on Gorman in Season 2. Dedra's stress appears in small imperfections, and nearly every time, it shows through the way she adjusts her uniform. These moments consistently occur when she is under stress or feels lost in her duties. In one of the most depressing scenes of Dedra, we see her having a panic attack. Her breath trembles, her hands begin to shake. She tugs at her collar as though she's trying to shake off the Empire's grip. She leans on the wall and forces her hand to still. Even now, she is attempting to remain emotionless. She straightens her tunic, returning herself to order. Her uniform is like armor, a representation of the Empire keeping her from feeling and being human. Rourke is always first in her mind. In the confrontation scene with Luthen, she treats him as a mere object, claiming that he's destroying evidence, meaning both the comms and himself. She loses her composure here, knowing how this loss would reflect on her career. She is unable to feel empathy when she grew up in a regime so oppressive. Although these moments are rare, it only proves how complex Dedra's character is. Had she not been raised in an oppressive regime, she would be completely different. She likely doesn't even know her true self. When Dedra is arrested, she is shed of her armor. She no longer has the order of the Empire keeping her in control. This is her most vulnerable moment, reduced to her own internal thoughts and emotions. The order she fought for, the Empire she gave her whole life to by knowing nothing else, discarded her like an overused weapon. She is completely alone. Dedra lived so long suppressing her emotions that she had to practice her smile before meeting Edie, and even that feels foreign to her. We see the Empire actively suppressing her emotions during her time on Gorman.
We have plenty of security. What I need now is some clarity on how exactly...
Dedra, calmly.
There's reports coming in from the countryside. They're saying we've landed mining rigs.
You seem animated.
Partagaz calls the emotion slipping through her voice animated, despite merely expressing a worry. Perhaps this is another way of Partagaz advising Dedra, but it is a perfect representation of the tyrannical culture of the Empire. We will get into Cyril and Dedra more later, but even in the scene where Dedra kisses Cyril, it is forceful and awkward. Dedra uses this as a way to keep Cyril silent, rather than a display of love or care. More on this, Dedra struggles to say anything genuine to Cyril.
It's good to see you happy.
The forced words can barely leave Dedra's lips. Since Dedra was raised within the walls of the Empire, she also learned many of their tactics of manipulation. She uses close proximity, physical touch, and direct eye contact to claim her power over others. Dedra was shaped by Imperial indoctrination, which never allowed her to be true to herself. And as Davo Skolden says to Mon Mothma,
Our position sometimes makes decisions for us, don't you find?
Dedra's unfamiliarity with emotional openness and vulnerability proves her relationship with Cyril is transactional rather than sincere.
I did a lot of research on female psychopathy. Apparently, women who are psychopaths are less likely to murder because they usually enlist other people to do it for them. And so that made total sense to me, because she gets Cyril to do things.
Based on Denise Goff's explanation of how she portrayed Dedra, she is likely to use others to benefit herself. This is seen when Dedra sends Cyril to Gorman to trap outside agitators. While they met a year before this, their first interactions showed no chemistry. Cyril met Dedra through an interrogation. They had a similar goal, to find Cassian Andor. Cyril then proceeded to stalk her outside of the ISB headquarters on Coruscant. Cyril tries to frame his obsession with Dedra as love. In some ways, it may stem from how he was raised, having a mother who exerts obsessive control over him and every part of his life. Dedra only returns Cyril's fixation after he rescues her, and even then it feels more like obligation than genuine interest. The cut in the scene suggests that she lets him closer to her than she normally would, without explicitly showing it. Afterwards, seeing how their dynamic is a year later, Dedra likely saw him as a pawn, and someone she could easily control. These implications are made clear with the acting choices made when the two are together. Dedra will often grab Cyril forcefully, as demonstrated in the kiss scene, or the dynamic between the two is extremely awkward. Since Dedra is naturally masculine, the few times we see her looking or dressing more feminine are clearly intentional choices. This is seen when she meets Edie for the first time, as well as moments where she wants to keep Cyril under her control. This pattern is also seen with Bix. She acknowledges that Tim will do anything for her because of their intimacy. Going back to the Ferric scene, Dedra uses her femininity as a way to thank Cyril.
I should say thank you.
Again, the scene cut leaves the rest up to interpretation. Dedra then realizes that in this way, she will be able to keep Cyril under her control. Dedra convincing Edie to limit her contact with Cyril isn't only to save him from his overbearing mother, it's to get Edie out of the way so Dedra can use him for her plans on Gorman. Similar to how the Empire works and how Denise Goff describes Dedra's motivations, the Empire, and by extension the ISB, use others as tools. Cyril even admits this while on Gorman.
They do what they want.
Without explanation.
It's the ISB. They have their own rules. No one else matters.
Cyril was blinded by the fact that Dedra's actions would also be the same. He believed that being close with Dedra would change that fact. Cyril also believed that having Dedra on his side gives him more power than he has. He commands around superior ISB agents he normally have no right speaking to. Not only that, but he uses his connection to the ISB headquarters as a threat.
Calling headquarters!
Yeah, good luck with that.
This isn't only shown in his actions, but also his hairstyle. He's always been precise about his appearance, from his clothing to his hair. But as he pulls away from Edie's control and grows more confident under Dedra's influence, his hair becomes less controlled and more disheveled. Dedra's motivations are revealed to the audience at many points throughout the show, namely when Dedra speaks to Partagaz about Cyril's involvement on Gorman.
You walk a very narrow path, Dedra. Cyril must never know what this is all really about.
I remind myself constantly, sir.
Partagaz likely knows of their closeness, but this line can be taken in two ways. One, that he knows Dedra is using Cyril, and he mustn't know that Dedra is using the so-called relationship as leverage. And two, that Cyril must never know that Gorman is a setup. As demonstrated many times throughout the show, Cyril is desperate for approval. Even Edie mentions this in the first season.
What is it that you hear my caller saying?
Look at me. I don't believe in myself. I am desperate for approval.
Dedra acknowledges this and uses it to her advantage. She dangles the reward of promotions to motivate Cyril to follow her.
Good things are waiting for us. We'll be out of here soon. We'll be back in Coruscant. We'll be together. We'll be rewarded.
Returning to the kiss scene, after Dedra silences Cyril's concerns, she follows with a line that only confirms the transactional relationship.
Do what I told you.
Dedra is completely serious, showing no genuine interest or concern. She is basically saying, if you do what I told you, you will continue to get this from me. The kiss isn't the only awkward moment between the two. While they wait for Edie, Dedra stands at an awkward distance from Cyril, something completely unlike her given how comfortably she uses proximity as leverage with others. She stood closer to Bix without any discomfort. The awkward blocking here makes it clear that her feelings towards Cyril aren't genuine. From the moment Cyril enters her apartment, she seems to rush the entire moment along. She moves away when he moves to kiss her. She tells him he only has an hour. With the perspective of this being a transactional relationship, Dedra wants to get it over with. Even in this scene, she still orders him around.
Turn out the lights.
Can't believe you had me followed.
Turn out the lights.
Dedra increasingly grows more impatient. This scene shows no chemistry and the characters don't fit together. Of course, once Cyril realizes how Dedra was using him, he completely loses his control. He becomes physically aggressive, and it is clear that neither had romantic intentions.
You're hurting me.
And you were going to tell me what the mining ships are doing here.
This is the first time we see Dedra losing complete control since Ferrix in the previous season. The arc between them completes itself. What begins with her loss of control ends in a moment where neither of them have it. After this, Dedra can't look Cyril in the eyes, which is far unlike her normal self. When Cyril chokes Dedra, it is done in a sickeningly obsessive way. He chokes her, but also holds her close so that her head is leaning on his forehead. When Cyril finally releases her, Dedra is shaking. This ties back into Dedra being a woman in a man's world. When Dedra finally answers Cyril's questions, she doesn't give him an exact answer.
They've been planning it for years. They're doing this, no matter what.
Yet, Dedra still attempts one last time to keep him under her control.
We wanted to be together.
This is more for the protection of her career rather than their relationship.
You didn't seem to mind the promotions.
She finally drops the act. She scans his face as though she's trying to spot a weakness, something she is seen doing during interrogations, therefore never separating her work from her relationships. She realizes she can no longer control him, and therefore has no use for him. The zoom out in this scene accentuates Dedra's loneliness. She is unable to create close relationships, and she is an outcast within the Empire because of her high ambitions and gender. When Cyril leaves the ISO building, Dedra only cares because of the information he now holds. She is protecting her career rather than his life. This is similar to Cyril attacking Cassian. He doesn't attack him because he sees him targeting Dedra. He attacks him because of an old gripe he hasn't let go of. He believes Cassian is the reason he ended where he did, rejected by both sides. In a twisted way, Cyril and Dedra's situation is a parallel to the propaganda happening on the planet. Dedra kept Cyril under her control by telling him what he wanted to believe, but in reality, he was only there to benefit Dedra and her career. This creates the question, why is Dedra so awkward around Cyril? This is entirely out of character for a master manipulator. This is where the subtext becomes extremely important when analyzing her character. As mentioned earlier, Dedra is in a male-dominated field, and not only that, she lacked a female figure in her life. She is easily irritated by the men around her. Even when she first meets Cyril, she believes he is incompetent. This is an interrogation, and she treats him as a fool. However, when she interrogates Bix, her demeanor shifts. She seems almost intrigued, leaning in closer with none of the awkwardness we see around Cyril. And even though Bix's interrogation is far more serious, the difference in Dedra's mannerisms are worth noting. Returning to the apartment scene, Dedra is tense, and her body language suggests that she's trying to push the situation forward just to get it over with. If you watch closely, Dedra leans away from Cyril's kiss, leaving him only able to reach her cheek. Dedra is very commanding throughout the scene, and when she has to repeat herself, she appears even more impatient. This not only shows her impatience with men in her life, but the masculine traits she's picked up on within the Empire. Dedra often speaks for Cyril, breaking the traditional gender roles. She often takes on masculine traits between them, which is telling for both Cyril and herself. As mentioned many times, the Empire is oppressive. Dedra already stands out being a woman in a man's world. This idea is clearly stated in Nemec's manifesto.
Oppression is the mask of fear.
This is what leads me to believe Dedra is subtextually a queer character. She is a guarded person, and the wall she's built around herself makes it difficult for introspection. This scene, although brief, is important when discussing this perspective. When her eyes open, she is observing her reflection, not Luthen. This is representative of brief introspection. She is seeing the woman she's become within the Empire, guarded, controlled, and oppressed. After this brief moment of vulnerability, she straightens herself, wearing that control as armor once again. Andor contains canonically queer characters, such as Vel and Cinta. It wouldn't be past Tony and Dan Gilroy to create subtextually queer characters as well. With this in mind, it is implied that same-sex relationships are still in common within this universe. This reinforces Dedra's suppression of anything outside the norm, especially given how the Empire punishes those who stand out. Even Perrin makes a comment implying that the normal expectation is to be with someone of the opposite sex.
Find yourself a husband?
Wasn't on my list of things to do.
As said before, Dedra is less awkward around women. Her actions border on intimate. She stands close, whispers in Bix's ear. She brushes Bix's hair back, then grabs her chin. If you look closely at the eye trace, her eyes lower to Bix's mouth. Dedra is only shown one other time glancing at someone's lips, Cyril's, and a moment where she feels she owes him something for saving her. This brings me to my final point, the scene transitions between characters. This transition is similar to one between Dedra and Bix. Another significant transition is from a scene with Vel and Cinta to one of Dedra. It transitions from Vel, a canonically queer character, to Dedra. Not only is it Dedra, but a distorted reflection of her. This distortion represents the act of hiding her true self within the Empire. Not only that, but most of the scene between Vel and Cinta is shot through a window, also providing the subtext of hiding. When the scene shifts, Dedra appears zoned out, her posture relaxed. The moment she hears Partagaz enter, she straightens immediately. The shots of Dedra reflected in the glass seem intentional for Dedra's character, suggesting a moment of introspection for her sexual identity. We can only hope that on Narkina, stripped of her power, she can confront the parts of herself she hid while being in the Empire. Dedra is undeniably a complex character, shaped by deep flaws, sharp ambition, and moments of vulnerability that show the humanity behind her cold exterior. Thanks to the show's amazing writing, the subtext provides a deeper understanding to her character. Dedra is more than an antagonist. She is a product of the Empire's structure, yet someone still capable of internal conflict and suppressed longing. The show's subtext allows viewers to explore her through multiple lenses, such as gender roles, queerness, and the oppression of fascist control. This complexity is what makes Dedra Meero a compelling character. She is ruthless and terrifying, yet deeply human, making her stand out even after the scenes fade.